How Russia-China's economic strategy is crushing the dollar. Money flows in the direction of value. When compared to other major currencies, the US dollar is stronger than it has been in the past 20 years. This implies that purchasing dollars is more expensive, and that dollars can purchase more pounds, euros, or yen. Every family and company in the globe is impacted by this. But something happened suddenly. The world's powerful currency collapsed. Yes, a battle between the ruble, yuan, and dollar. Early this year, a CNBC analysis confirmed the widespread belief that the dollar will no longer be the world's primary reserve currency. Consequently, nations will stop exchanging commodities for our currency, and vice versa. We will have to convert dollars into other currencies in order to export or import things. Is that really true? Let's find out the answers in the video. For 80 long years, the US dollar has been the most dominant currency in the world. The United States has such key advantages over globalized trade thanks to its role as a reserve currency that it can completely transform any nation's economy within a week. Because of this control, it has even reigned titans like Russia and China. However, as you well know, folks, this is where China and Russia have really established a sorcerer tactic to undermine the dollar's supremacy in the global economy. And if you look at the data from the last decade, you will find that it is actually working very effectively. In 1999, the US dollar had a market share of 71 among the world's reserve currencies, but since then, it has fallen to less than 59%. If China and Russia's agenda is successful, it may also collapse to less than 59% in the next 10 years. What is that strategy? Will the strategy work? Will the yuan or ruble actually be in the boom? So without any further hemming and yawing, let's get into specifics. Are oil markets ending the relationship with dollars? The long-touted possibility of the end of the US dollar's despotism in global oil and gas markets took another step forward last week with the announcement that Russian and Chinese hydrocarbon Goliaths, Gazprom, and China National Petroleum Corporation, CNBC, had agreed to toggle payouts for fuel supplies to rubles, RUB, and renminbi, RMB, rather than dollars. The Chinese strategy. This will be the case for the first stage of the new system of billing for Russian gas shipments to China through the Power of Siberia Eastern Pipeline route, which amounts to at least 38 billion cubic meters of gas per year. The new payment system will then be improved. At this point, it is important to point out that China has made it a priority since at least 2010 to confront the US dollar's reputation as the world's de facto reserve currency. Even though continuing international sanctions against Russia for its February invasion of Ukraine served as the underlying reason for this crucial turnaround in the mode of payment. China has long believed that the standing of the yuan in the world's currency rankings is a representation of the country's own political and economic significance. An early sign of China's ambition for the renminbi was visible at the G20 summit in London in April 2010, when Zhao Xiaochuan, then governor of the People's Bank of China, PBOC, flagged the idea that the Chinese hoped a new international reserve currency to eventually replace the US dollar, as detailed in my most recent book on the global oil markets. Following the RMB's inclusion in the IMF's Special Drawing Right (SDR) reserve asset mix in October 2016, when it was given a weighting of 10.9%, there was a great deal of media excitement in China. China continues to view the RMB's 12.28% participation in the SDR mix as being underwhelming for its position as an emerging powerhouse in the world as of 2022. Sanctions of Russia. China has also been starkly conscious of the fact that, as the highest economic net importer of total petroleum and other liquid fuel since 2013, and the broadest gross distributor of crude oil since 2017, it is obliquely subject to the whims of American foreign policy through the oil pricing mechanism of the US dollar. This notion of the US dollar as a weapon has been dramatically strengthened since Russia invaded Ukraine and the ensuing US-led sanctions, as with sanctions on Iran from 2018 about the prohibition on using the US currency. Zhang Yanling, a former executive vice president of the Bank of China, stated in an April speech that the current sanctions against Russia will lead the US to lose credibility and erode the US dollar's hegemony in the long term. She went on to say that China should assist the globe in eliminating the dollar dominance sooner rather than later. While China was afraid to openly defy the US during the peak of its trade war under the very volatile former US President Donald Trump, it could do nothing about it on its own. However, just after the United States reinstituted punitive measures on its key Middle Eastern partner, Iran, in 2018, the CEO of Russia's Novatek, Leonid Mikkelsen stated in September of that year that Russia had been discussing shifting away from US dollar-centric trading with its largest trading partners such as India and China, and even that Arab countries were considering it. If they, the US, cause problems for our Russian banks, all we have to do is substitute dollars, he continued. Around the same time, China founded its now famous Shanghai Futures Exchange, which offers oil futures priced in yuan, the trading unit of the renminbi currency. A similar technique was undertaken on a smaller scale in 2014, when Gazpromneft attempted to trade crude oil shipments in Chinese yuan and rubles with China and Europe. Is China making a new currency to dethrone the US dollar? China and Russia may be developing a new gold-backed currency in an attempt to oust the US dollar as the world's major reserve currency, but such a currency is unlikely to succeed. Neither nation has publicly announced intentions for such a currency, but China began purchasing large quantities of gold earlier this year, at the same time as Russia was driven off the dollar owing to sanctions imposed in reaction to the invasion of Ukraine. The battle also resulted in the greatest drop in gold prices in years. Some analysts warn that these actions, together with the stronger bond that has grown between Moscow and Beijing as the rest of the world have ostracized Russia since the invasion, hint at China's aiming to introduce a new currency backed by gold. According to Craig Singleton, senior fellow at the Foundation for Defensive Democracies, Chinese authorities have been talking about overhauling the global financial system and reducing the dollar's supremacy for 2 decades. Two components of that plan revolve on the establishment of a yuan-based global commodities trading system and Chinese efforts, in collaboration with Russia and other like-minded countries, to change dollar supremacy by developing a new reserve currency, Singleton told Fox News Digital. In essence, Beijing and Moscow are attempting to create their own zone of influence and currency within that area, thus inoculating themselves from the prospect of US sanctions, he continued. What is the thing behind gold shipments? However, the record amount of gold acquired by China has raised some suspicions, even if the pattern has mostly gone unnoticed by the mainstream media. According to Reuters, Swiss gold shipments to China reached a 5-year high in July, with Beijing acquiring 80.1 tons of gold valued at roughly $4.6 billion, more than twice the 32.5 tons purchased in June, and the second highest monthly total since 2012. According to international financial statistics for March 2022, China may have the 7th largest gold reserves, with more arriving every month. According to Francis Hunt, a trade expert, utilizing gold to back the currency would be the greatest method to generate confidence in such currency, and that currency might be digital in nature to offer China better oversight over its residents' activities. The terrain is diametrically opposed to the historical trend. The US currency is supported by a single, stable market of Americans who purchase and sell goods. That's a big starting point, especially when you consider the Western countries' combined historical, cultural, and political links to the US. The US currency is supported by a stable foundation of over 310 million people, but the yuan is dispersed across 1.3 billion Chinese people who will begin to demand greater rights from the government as they become wealthier. Will the dollar soon lose its status as an international reserve currency as the pound sterling has? Let me know in the comment section box. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.